Hello, everybody, and welcome to my overall thoughts on the Avengers beta. Okay, the beta happened. It ended recently. There were 3 different weekends you could play on. Consider, like, if you were able to pre-order it for PlayStation 4, you could play it for 3 weeks. But I played it on PS4. I did not pre-order the game. In fact, at the moment, I still have not pre-ordered the game. I'm still debating that, and I don't, want to. And that doesn't mean I don't like the game or anything, which I'll talk about, obviously, in a little bit. But I played it a little bit mostly on the second weekend, a little bit on the third weekend. This is me trying to record some footage. I'm playing as Iron Man. I'll talk about the characters in a little bit, but I wanted to get some of my own footage in there before the beta ended so I could talk about it and not just show the A-Day demo again and again and again. So I guess first of all, I should talk about what kind of game is this. That was something that a lot of people were wondering. What kind of game is it? Well, I guess to summarize, it's pretty much just a beat 'em up mixed with a looter shooter. So a lot of the time you're gonna be spent either punching or shooting bad guys, looking for gear and stuff, upgrading your characters, and because this was the beta, obviously you're not gonna get all the gear, you're not going to get all of the upgrades and stuff. In fact, there were a ton of upgrades for all of the characters, and it was only like 1 out of 4 pages of upgrades. So that was pretty interesting. I'm not going to be talking about the story or anything because there were only a couple missions that actually had to do with the story, including you play the A-Day mission, which has been showed off so many times, and you get some stuff with the Hulk and Ms. Marvel running around to get to fight the Abomination, who's in the game, and probably the easiest fight in the game. Like, it's so easy taking him down. It's weird, but then again, I just played on normal mode, and there are like 5 difficulties or something like that. But yeah. So I guess first of all, let's talk about some gear things. I'm kind of getting tired of the whole every game has to have gear, and it's like kind of like an RPG, but not really kind of game. It doesn't really actually affect that much, but I'm sure it will more so on the harder difficulty levels. So for example, there's some enemies, right, that'll do like ice damage or fire damage, but I never really found myself going out of my way to equip my character with gear that would defend against fire or ice damage. I would pretty much just pick whatever one would have the highest power level after I fully upgrade that gear piece. It just really didn't come into play. Like, okay, if there's ice enemies, okay, I might get frozen and then have to press the square button like 3 times, but that's like such a like, I guess such a small chance of that happening that it didn't really come into effect at all. But I did play one mission on a harder difficulty, and it had they were like poisonous enemies and they were doing a lot of damage. So the gear system is kind of weird, It doesn't really affect too much. It doesn't even show up on characters. It's not something like Injustice 2 where you can customize every single part of the design. But it just changes some stats. It's really not a huge deal. It seems a lot more in-depth than it actually is. Maybe that's just because it's the beta and I haven't really experienced or paid a lot of attention to it, but the gear system it's fine. It just does what it is, but it kind of feels a little tacked on. But again, like I'm saying, this is just the beta. I don't know the full game. These are just my impressions of the gear system so far. Also with unlockables, I might as well talk about that, the costumes. So the game sort of has this kind of like a battle, almost a battle royale type unlock thing for your costumes and nameplate customization stuff, where you have to do, you level up and then you get like some items, you get a costume eventually. I know the game Fall Guys is pretty popular right now, and it's very similar to that. However, that is separate from your leveling up, your actual level for your character. This has to do with specific challenges, and where I could see this being a problem with the game is that there are daily challenges and there's weekly challenges. The weekly challenges are going to be easy, it gives you a whole week to do it. But for me, I know I'm going to be very, very busy very soon, Actually, I'm already getting kind of busy. That's why this video is coming out later. But, you know, the daily challenges want you to do, like, for example, with Iron Man. I think I'm checking it right now. Right here. Okay, maybe it wasn't Iron Man. I know one of them was, like, open 15 strong boxes or whatever. Right? And so the only way I could really see you doing that very quickly is if you constantly repeat a mission. But that would get boring. And if it's a daily challenge, you're not going to really have enough time to do it unless you play for like several hours in a day. So that's where I can kind of see trying to get costumes and stuff might be difficult. Maybe they'll have, like, you know, an in-game currency where you can just buy the costume right away. I know that you can actually skip certain levels on the challenge card with the in-game currency, but there wasn't really enough to where that would be a viable option most of the time if you really want a costume. So yeah, the challenge card, I don't really know how I'm feeling about that. It just, I don't want to be forced to do the same move against 30 different enemies, right? I know one of them was defeat it was like 20 enemies with Iron Man's heavy combo. Well, that's like, I have to do the heavy combo and I have to defeat the enemy. If like someone else comes in and beats them first, like the AI characters or like a friend or something, then that doesn't count. So challenge card, I'm not a big fan of. Well, I guess this is a good segue into talking about missions, because like I said, I mentioned that you know I might have to repeat missions to get a certain like challenge that has to do with unlocking or like opening up certain loot boxes or whatever. But let's talk about the actual missions. So there were only a handful of missions in the beta, and they were pretty repetitive. But I just want to say, because they only were a handful, right? And they were very clearly designed with multiplayer in mind. Now, you can play the game on your own. For this little gameplay snippet, I was playing on my own because I just wanted to get it out of the way. In fact, the recording here is about to end, so because I didn't record for that long, so I'm just gonna have to replay it again because I didn't expect to be talking about the game for this long either. But yeah, so a lot of the missions were designed with multiplayer in mind because most of them are just beat up a bunch of enemies, go down an elevator, beat up a bunch of enemies while standing in this spot, and then you win. So hopefully there are more missions, like there's a greater variety of missions, but I'm not really sure how I'm gonna go about doing the missions, because I want to try and play through this game on YouTube. I'm not gonna make, I don't know when that will be, probably hopefully soon, whenever the game, when the game comes out, maybe a little bit after. But it also seems like campaign missions are also heavily intertwined with multiplayer, which I kind of wish they were more separate, because I want to do some multiplayer missions with friends, because I don't like, if I'm beating up just bad guys, doing the same repetitive missions over and over, I'd rather have do that with some friends so we can joke around. But if I'm playing through the story, I want to just play through by myself so I can like experience the story and not necessarily not really pay attention that much because I'm just playing it with my friends. So missions, really what I'm trying to say is I hope that there's more variety in the missions in the actual game, and I'm just I hope there's more of like a separation between the actual game's main campaign and multiplayer missions, because it's just kind of a weird thing that I don't really know how to articulate what I'm trying to say here, but I'd rather just do campaign single player and some of the more generic missions multiplayer. But I'm not really sure if that is going to be viable, because I don't want to kick my friends out of the party so I can go record some campaign, and then hopefully they're there available to play when I want to record multiplayer or just play the game in general. Alright, now let's actually start talking about the characters. So first of all, Captain America and Thor are only available in the A-Day mission, which is the first mission of the game, and you only play for them each maybe less than 5 minutes. So I can't really talk about those two, but I can talk about the other 4, being Ms. Marvel, Hulk, Iron Man, and Black Widow. So first of all, let me talk about Ms. Marvel. Ms. Marvel, at least in the earlier leveling up process is very, very, very powerful. Her gear had a way higher power level than many of the other characters, including Hulk. So you're gonna spend a lot of the beginning of the beta playing as Ms. Marvel and Hulk, and she is just way stronger than Hulk for some reason. I don't know why that is, but I'm just mostly talking about the when they're in their lower levels. Once you level up the characters a little bit more, it'll be different. So, for example, by the end, Iron Man was my highest power level. That's also because I played as Iron Man the most. But Ms. Marvel is a very good character, actually. I wasn't really expecting much for her, but she's pretty good in the tank role. Like, she can take on that role of being a tank, and I'll talk about Hulk in a little bit. But she can hit multiple enemies at once. Her projectile, I guess you can call it that, is her, extending her arm really far. That's pretty good. She can turn big and do a bunch of damage that way. So I think she's a very good tank character and very good to use, especially in the earlier levels. She has a move that can heal your team, very useful. And she has another move where she can like slam a bunch of enemies and push them away. So I think she's a very, very good character, which I wasn't really expecting much of. So next up, I'm going to be talking about Hulk, and I'm not really talking about the characters that in depth because, again, this is just the beta. Everything's subject to change. Everything that I'm talking about, mostly what I'm talking about is just speculation and going off of what I've seen from just a few hours of playing the game, having not much at my disposal. But the Hulk might be the weakest character in the game, which is very strange to say. His dodges aren't very great because he's so big. I feel like his dodge just doesn't do enough, right? He doesn't have any more health than the other enemies. His rage meter, it doesn't really do that much more damage. At least it wasn't that noticeable for me, and it depletes very quickly. He has a move though that does give him infinite health for a little bit of time, so that's good. His ultimate, which is his like big thunderclap or whatever, that's pretty good, I'd say. It takes out a bunch of enemies, especially if they're all close to each other. But overall, I'd say, he's supposed to be a tank, but overall, I'd say Ms. Marvel is actually better for that position. Yeah, I don't know. Hulk just didn't seem to be that great of a character in the demo, I keep saying demo, beta, whatever, but I don't want to say he's bad, alright? None of the characters are bad. They're actually all fun to play as, which is good because, you want to have fun playing as the character that you're playing as. So, you're not always going to be able to play as Iron Man, per se, if you're playing multiplayer with your friends and one of them wants to do Iron Man. So, it is good that none of the characters are bad. I just want to put that out there. But I'd say Hulk is probably the worst character to play as out of all of these. He has some cool costumes and stuff, but I'd say Ms. Marvel is overall a better tank character, which is very weird. So I'll talk about Black Widow. Before I get to Iron Man, I'm saving Iron Man for last. Black Widow is pretty interesting. She's very good at just, I guess going against enemies one-on-one. She has her grapple move, which is basically like Spider-Man's web strike from a bunch of other games, which allows her to tether different enemies. She has guns. She has 3 different guns. She has a normal gun, and just normal dual-wield guns. She has a Magnum, which is good for breaking shields on shielded enemies, and she has her 2 little submachine guns, which I got a gear piece, which made them do extra damage. So those were really, really good. So she's like okay. She's not really particularly amazing at close range, and she's not really particularly amazing at a distance either, but if you put some of the right gear on, even though I said earlier I wasn't really paying attention to gear, but this specific example I got a good gear piece, she can do some damage. Where she really gets good though is in her ultimate, which basically just improves her melee combat so much. Probably, well, I won't say it's the best melee combat, but her ultimate basically transforms her batons into a big electrical staff, which is just, her melee combat becomes way better. She can launch enemies up in the air. do a ton of different damage. So I guess if you combine her ultimate with the ability that she can, because with her ultimate, she still has all of her other abilities, so she can, you know, pull out those upgraded machine guns, hit a bunch of people with the staff. She can use her grapple to get in close. So Black Widow is pretty good, but not my favorite character. In fact, we're going to be talking about my favorite character in this demo right now, which is Iron Man. It is very clear to me that Iron Man had the most thought put into him. All of his gameplay, all of the different aspects of his gameplay feel the most well-rounded. So he has 3 different, I guess, modes of attacking. So he had, like, you know, of course he has his, like, basic attacks, but basically what I'm talking about, I guess, 3 different weapons you could call them. He has repulsors, lasers, and rockets, okay? So his heavy attacks also change based on whatever weapon you're using, unlike Black Widow, who doesn't use her guns in melee combat. Iron Man's heavy attacks act as both ranged and melee attacks, but he can also, as you can see, just aim and fire whenever. But he can also do melee combat and ranged combat in the air. So what you'll see in a second, so yeah, I just use lasers, right? And then I'm going to go up to this guy. I'm going to use the heavy attack for the repulsor. But then, as you can see, I'm switching in between the different modes of attacking in the middle of a combo. So combine this with the fact that I can switch into like 3 different ways of doing heavy attacks in melee combat. I can also do an uppercut into air combat, and then I can start aiming and firing whenever I want. You can also go into like an actual flight mode and shoot, although it's not the best way of attacking, but I'm just saying that you can do that. So all of his attacks just feel really good. Like his laser, for example, is pretty weak, but in melee combat it can sweep and hit a bunch of enemies at once, and it's good for targeting the lower level enemies because it's very accurate and does a lot of continuous damage, unlike something like the repulsor. But then you have the rockets, which can obviously, as you can see, can target people, or I can just shoot them normally. They take up a lot of his energy, but they do a bunch of damage, and then repulsors are just your all-around, you're just like standard weapon. So his one move, he has his unibeam, which I mess up here pretty badly, pretty inaccurate. That's pretty good for just doing a bunch of damage to like a boss or hitting a bunch of lower level enemies that are grouped near each other. His one move, I guess, is like his power surge, which gives him unlimited energy for a short amount of time. And as you can see here is the Hulkbuster. The Hulkbuster is okay. It's not that great. It plays very similar to Hulk, as you would assume. But the silver lining with this Hulkbuster is that any character can get into it, not just Iron Man. You can place it wherever you want. So someone like Black Widow can hop into the Hulkbuster and start doing a bunch of damage, while Iron Man can be flying off and, you know, supporting from the air. And that's another thing about Iron Man. So all these characters kind of have specific roles. Ms. Marvel is kind of like a cross between like just an assault and a tank, a little bit. I don't really know how to describe her character. Black Widow is very much just, you know, an assault character, just going in and attacking people. Hulk is a tank, obviously. And Iron Man is just 50-50 an assault and a support character, because you can play him either way. That's like what I was trying to say, that he's 100% the most well-rounded character. And that's just with, you know, excluding Captain America or Thor or any of the DLC characters, because they're not really available to play as yet. So Iron Man definitely is the best character so far. Well, this video lasted way longer than I thought it would, but let me just summarize my thoughts here. Characters are all pretty fun to play as, with Iron Man being the best. Missions can be repetitive, but that's just because a lot of them that were offered were designed for multiplayer, and there weren't a lot of missions that you could actually play with. The gear and the challenge card stuff I'm not a huge fan of. It could be better. And but overall, I had fun. I had fun playing the game. It's pretty addicting. I don't know how much time I'll have to play it. I don't know when the Let's Play will be out, so who knows. But I think it was definitely a fun time that I had. What do I hope for the future? I hope for more mission variety. I hope some new characters, obviously, which are going to be free. Basically, what I'm just hoping for is more variety. That's pretty much what I hope from this game, because it's pretty fun, but it can get repetitive with its mission structure and just playing the game in general. But those are my thoughts on Marvel's Avengers beta, which is coming out. The full game is coming out soon. If you guys did enjoy and are looking forward to this game, leave a like, comment, and subscribe, or let me know what you thought of it. But that's going to do it. See ya. Turn on notifications, please. I keep forgetting to say that in my videos, but that'll do it.